My mother grew up in rural Missouri in the early 1970s. It was the kind of place where everybody knew everybody. Church on Sunday wasn't optional, and news traveled faster than the mail. She told me this story when I was old enough to hear it. Even now, decades later, she still gets quiet whenever she talks about the Bancrofts. The Bancroft family were one of the most well-known families in the area, not just because there were 16 of them living under one roof, but because of the father. Reverend Bancroft was famous enough that people drove from neighboring counties just to attend his services. He had a reputation for casting out demons. According to the stories, people would arrive shaking, screaming, speaking strangely, and after the Reverend laid hands on them, they'd leave calm and composed. My mother was a child then. She believed every word of it. Most people did.
Thad was the 9th-born child. My mother didn't know him well, but in a small community, you know everyone, at least a little. Even as a teenager, Thad stood out from the rest of his family. While his brothers and sisters were obedient and quiet, Thad questioned everything. Not small questions either, the kind that made adults uncomfortable. Questions about faith, science, and whether possession was real at all. One afternoon, my mother asked him about the people his father supposedly delivered from demons. She expected some mysterious answer. Instead, Thad laughed. "They're just people putting on a show," he told her. He said it so casually that it shocked her. According to my mother, that attitude caused constant conflict in the Bancroft household. Thad wasn't interested in becoming a preacher. He wanted books. He wanted universities. He talked about Aristotle, philosophy, metaphysics, and scientific theories nobody else in town had heard of. In rural Missouri during the early 1970s, that alone was enough to make people think he was strange. His father thought it was rebellion. The punishment was harsh: whippings, isolation, and long stretches spent alone in the barn. Yet nothing seemed to change his mind. As the years passed, people began noticing changes in him. One Sunday, he missed the church reading he normally performed. The following week, he didn't show up at all, and before long, entire months would pass without anyone seeing him. When he did appear, something seemed different. My mother struggled to describe it. He didn't look sick or injured, just distant, like he was always listening to something nobody else could hear. Then came November 7th, 1972. My mother woke up to the news the way everyone did. A phone call here, a knock at the door there, and a rumor that became fact before breakfast. The Bancrofts were dead. All 15 of them. Everyone except Thad. Authorities believed the family had died while sleeping, but something about the scene disturbed even the investigators. The condition of the bodies didn't seem to match the timeline. According to the autopsy, they had been dead only a few days, yet witnesses claimed they appeared far more deteriorated than they should have been. An unidentified toxic substance was reportedly found during the investigation. Whatever it was, officials never publicly provided a clear explanation. The community was devastated. For weeks, people spoke in whispers. Some suspected Thad, others defended him. No charges were ever filed. No official conclusion was ever reached. The case slowly went cold. After the funerals, nobody saw Thad. At first, people assumed he was grieving. Then they assumed he had fled. But strange reports continued. Neighbors swore lights appeared in the Bancroft house late at night. Others claimed they heard movement inside. No one was willing to investigate.
The house had become something people avoided. Eventually, several relatives decided to check on the property. When they entered, the house was empty. Dust covered the furniture, the bedrooms were vacant, and no food sat in the kitchen. There was no sign anyone had been living there. Then, they found the basement. My mother's voice always changes when she reaches this part. She says the relatives discovered writing covering nearly every wall, lines of text, symbols, strange diagrams. Some people claimed parts of it were Latin. Others said the markings resembled Masonic symbols. No one seemed able to make sense of it. And in the center of the room sat a wooden table. On top of it rested Thad's head. No body, no blood, just his head, sitting alone on the dark wood. The authorities searched the property extensively. The rest of his remains were never recovered. People in that community eventually settled on their own explanation. They believed the demons Reverend Bancroft had cast out over the years had finally returned, that they had used Thad to destroy the family, and when they were finished with him, they took him too. My mother never says whether she believes that. She only tells the story. But every time she reaches the end, she comes back to the same question, the one nobody ever answered. If Thad killed the Bancrofts and later took his own life in that basement, who put his head on the table? I had this pagan neighbor called Sally, and before I get into this, I want to say she was one of the nicest people I'd ever lived next to. She was the kind of neighbor you don't expect to get, kept to herself mostly, but when she did show up, she was warm, genuine. She had this thing where whenever I came home from work, she'd sometimes be waiting with a pie she'd made, just standing there with it like it was the most normal thing. And it was good pie. That part I want to be clear about. The only thing I ever noticed that felt slightly off were her arms. Whenever she came by, I'd catch these marks on them, like cuts. And they weren't old ones either. Sometimes they looked fresh. I never said anything about it. It wasn't my place. And outside of that, she seemed completely fine. Happy, even. Over time, she started sharing about her beliefs with me. She was pagan. She talked about it openly, not in a pushy way, just matter-of-factly. I'm not a religious person, never have been, but I didn't mind listening. She and her friends seemed close, the kind of community where people genuinely cared about each other. From what she described, it sounded peaceful, grounded even. So when she invited me to one of their gatherings, I said yes. I figured it would be interesting. Some people in the woods, burning incense, holding hands. I'd seen enough of her to know she was harmless. I did not know what I was walking into. There were 8 of us total. They'd set up a tent in a clearing and arranged all sorts of things around it. Candles, symbols, objects I didn't recognize. Someone started burning incense, and the smell was thick immediately. Then one of them started walking backwards in a slow circle around the area, holding a lamp and chanting. I watched all of this and told myself it was just ritual. Every religion has ritual. Sally came over and asked if I was okay. I said yes. I asked what was happening. She told me they were preparing to receive a spirit. I didn't believe in any of that, but I nodded and stayed because everyone seemed calm and I didn't want to be rude. We all stood in a circle and held hands. They started chanting and singing together, low at first, then building. I stood there holding hands with strangers in the woods at night, and I'm not going to pretend it wasn't unsettling, even before anything happened. It went on for maybe 10 minutes before it stopped. Then Sally walked into the tent.
When she came back out, she was carrying a human skull. She placed it in the center of the circle. Then she took out a knife and drew it across her palm. The blood ran down over the skull slowly, and I stood there completely frozen. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just watched. Then her eyes rolled back. I don't have another way to describe it. Her whole body went rigid at the same time, like something had taken hold of her from the inside. Her voice changed too. Whatever she was chanting before became something lower, something that didn't sound like her at all. Her eyes rolled back and all you could see was white, and then everyone around me started screaming. And I looked around and they were cutting themselves. Whatever calm the woods had before just disappeared. The night sounds, the crickets, everything got swallowed up by screaming and the sound of knives, and I couldn't separate one voice from another anymore. It was just noise and blood, and I was the only one standing still. I ran straight out of those woods and back to my house, and I locked the door and sat on the floor and just stayed there for a while. The next morning, she knocked. I looked through the peephole before I decided anything. She looked completely normal. Hair done, clean clothes, a small smile like she was just stopping by to say good morning. Her hand was bandaged, just a neat white bandage wrapped around her palm like she'd had a minor kitchen accident. That image bothered me more than anything from the night before. The way she just looked so ordinary standing there. I didn't open the door. She knocked a few more times and then stopped. I think she understood. After that, things were just different. She wasn't around as much. The pies stopped. When we did cross paths, it was brief. A nod, maybe. Nothing more. Whatever we'd had as neighbors just quietly ended without either of us saying so. I moved out eventually, different reasons mostly, but I won't pretend that night had nothing to do with it. What I still think about isn't the chanting or even the cutting, it's the skull. I never found out if it was real. I've told myself it probably wasn't, that it was a replica, something you can order online, a prop for the ritual. That's the reasonable explanation, but I don't know. I never asked. And Sally never told me. I still think about where it came from. I probably always will. I want to start by saying me and my friends were not innocent kids. Frank, that's me, Toby was 16, Josh and I were 17. Josh was always the instigator. That was just him. Confident, loud, always the first one to run up and ring the bell, while me and Toby hung back. He thought the whole thing was hilarious. Half the reason we kept doing it was because of how much he enjoyed it. That was Josh. We had a reputation in our neighborhood for ding-dong ditching. Ring the doorbell, hide, watch the reaction. We'd done it enough times that whenever it happened anywhere on our street, people automatically assumed it was us. Fair enough. Most of the time it was. But there were lines we didn't cross. We knew which houses to avoid. You don't prank the wrong people. That's just common sense. There was a house on our street that sat apart from the others. The man who lived there was an ex-convict, convicted for beating his girlfriend. He'd been out for a while, and by all accounts had been keeping his head down, but his reputation was the kind that doesn't wash off easy. We knew about him. We gave that house a wide berth, always had. What we didn't know was that someone else hadn't. December 23rd,
Me, Toby, and Josh were hanging out in my yard, just killing time, nothing going on. That's when I saw him, a man in a dark hoodie, walking across the street. He looked over at us, and he didn't move at first, just stood there, looking. I remember thinking that was odd, but I didn't say anything. Then he charged at us, coming straight at us, full speed. We ran into my house. I wasn't thinking, just moving. I figured he'd stop at the door. People stop at the door. That's how it works. He didn't stop at the door. He came in. Me and Toby went upstairs. Josh went toward the kitchen. I don't know why we split up. You don't think in those moments. You just move. Then I heard Josh scream. Then I heard him hitting Josh. It was one of the most terrifying sounds I've heard. He was hitting him over and over. Then it all stopped. I remember not hearing Josh. Toby and I were at the top of the stairs, not moving, not breathing. Then we heard footsteps coming toward the stairs. I still think about those few seconds, standing at the top of those stairs, listening to him coming, not knowing if he was going to come up, not knowing what he'd do if he did. He stopped at the bottom, stood there for a moment. Then the footsteps went back the other way. Then the front door. Then nothing. We waited. Then we went down to the kitchen. Josh was on the floor, unconscious. I called 911, told them we'd been attacked. They knew who it was before we even finished describing him. He was arrested the same day. At the station, he told the police it was retaliation. Said kids had been ringing his doorbell for days, every night. Said he'd had enough and decided to respond. I told my parents it wasn't us. I told the police it wasn't us. I told everyone who would listen. We knew better than to mess with that man. It was kids from the park. I'd seen them out there doing the same routes we used to do. But nobody believed us. We were the infamous ones. Of course it was us. Josh was rushed to the hospital. Broken jaw, broken nose. His whole face looked like it had been hit with something solid. His jaw never healed right. Even years later, you could see it when he talked, slightly off, like something had been reset wrong. The man went back to prison. I don't know what to feel about most of it. I've made peace with the parts I can make peace with. What I haven't made peace with is the stairs. He beat Josh unconscious in my kitchen and then walked toward those stairs and stopped, and then he left. I've never understood that. There was nothing stopping him from coming up, nothing between us except a few steps. Whatever made him stop, I don't know. I just know that whatever it was, it's the only reason I'm here to tell this story.